good. The time, the sound. طيب بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين الصلاة والسلام على رسول الله وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين أما بعد السلام عليكم ورحمة الله تعالى وبركاته. Welcome back, guys. It's been a long time. Hajj, Umrah, first 10 days of Dhul Hijjah, fiqh of sacrificing. Alhamdulillah, a very successful trip to Minneapolis. Walillahi alhamd wal minna. May Allah accept it from us all. We had a great time seeing the brothers, the disciples, and the disciples of hadith out there. Walillahi alhamd. Many motivational and inspiring things Allah allowed us to witness and to partake in. So we want to get right back into the flow of things with wal-Marjan and studying the Sahihain and the hadiths from the Sahihain, min azm al-umur, some of the most important things, inshallah ta'ala. And that's the meat and the potatoes of everything, and everything else is on the side. Actually studying the hadith, studying the sunnah of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, that's the main thing, inshallah. Question and answer sessions, this lecture, that lecture, 5 minutes of fa'idah, so on and so forth. The core is the actual study of the sunnah, systematically, and Allah surely knows best. Khairan, inshallah. So now we're moving on to chapter number 21 on page 293, hadith 554. It says, Babu ma ja'a fi mustarihin wa mustarahin minhu. Hadith Abi Qatadata ibn Rabi'i al-Ansari radiyallahu anhu anna Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam مر عليه بجنازة فقال مستريح ومستراح منه قالوا يا رسول الله ما المستريح والمستراح منه قال العبد المؤمن يستريح من نصب الدنيا وأذاها إلى رحمة الله والعبد الفاجر يستريح منه العباد والبلاد والشجر والدواب. Chapter number 20 says, or 21 says, what is said about relieved or relieving the people from him or her. What is said about someone who's relieved and someone who relieves others or other things. Mustarihun or mustarahun minhu. As we say RIP, rest in peace. Someone is resting in peace. The worries, the struggles, the horrors, the terrors of this treacherous worldly life, they no longer have to worry about. The non-Muslims in movies and songs, they always say to their deceased loved ones, I know you're in a better place now. You're looking down upon us. You're smiling on us. I know you're up there talking to me. I know you're in a better place, in the pearly gates. You understand this? And they believe the notion that this deceased person, especially when a person's life was taken away from them, let's say through gun violence, they're rest in peace. They're resting from the troubles and the perils of this world. So that's something which is clearly established. And the same applies to a wrongdoer, a tyrant, a bully, an oppressor, a mean, evil, cruel, tough guy that just bullies people and pushes people around and does what he wants to do. When he's shot or when he dies or whatever happens to him, the people feel at rest. And they praise either Allah, or they praise the one who took them out, or they praise their other deities, whatever the case may be, they acknowledge the fact that people can rest in his safety and his peace, that this wrongdoer is gone. He's done away with. So the concept of someone who's good to the people and someone who was wronged versus someone who was bad to the people and someone who wronged others. What's important is that this chapter heading is showing us what is parallel and consistent to our cultural norms, is that when people die, there's some type of effect, good or bad. And the people feel sad, but at the same time happy that you're in a better place, or the people feel happy and they rejoice that they're there in a better place because you're no longer around. And you look at this concept, this no doubt, without any question, is a very real concept, and it's a very deep concept. And it's something that you have to ask yourself realistically and honestly. Look yourself in the mirror. When I go, which of the two will I be? Will the people be happy that I'm going? Or will they be happy that I'm in a better place? Inshallah. You have to ask ourselves this question, huh? Right. This chapter heading, it also subtly establishes or points us towards life in the grave. Life in the grave. Rewards and punishment. A person being at rest. Or a person not being at rest. And obviously if you're not resting, then that means you're busy with something. Khairan inshallah. So it was narrated by Abu Qatada radiyallahu anhu. A funeral procession passed by Allah's Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam, who said, relieved or relieving. The people asked, O Messenger, O Allah's Messenger, what is relieved and relieving? He said, a believer is relieved by death from the troubles and hardships of the world and leaves for the mercy of Allah the Exalted. While the death of a wicked person relieves and saves the people, the land, the trees, and the animals from him or her evil, wicked actions. Wal-iyadhu billah. As we've just explained and established. Nawawi rahimahullah ta'ala, he says regarding this chapter, طيب just a second inshallah. With regards to this chapter of mustarihun or mustarahun minhu, he says here, معنى الحديث أن الموت قسمان مستريح ومستراح منه ونصب الدنيا تعبها وأما استراحة العباد من الفاجر معناه اندفاع أذاه عنهم وذاه يكون من وجوه منها ظلمه لهم ومن ارتكابه للمنكرات فإن أنكروها قاسوا مشقة من ذلك وربما نالهم ضرره وإن سكتوا عنه أثموا واستراحة الدواب منه كذلك لأنه كان يؤذيها ويضربها ويحملها ما لا تطيقه ويجيعها في بعض الأوقات وغير ذلك واستراحة البلاد والشجر فقيل لأنها تمنع القطر بمصيبته قاله داودي وقال الباجي لأنه يغصبها ويمنعها حقها من الشرب وغيره. Nawawi rahimahullah ta'ala in al-Minhaj, he says, what's meant by this hadith is that the dead are of two types. Qisman, the dead are of two types. Type number one, mustarih, one who's at rest. Type number two, mustarahun minhu, one who the people are at rest from him. He says, as far as the servants being at rest from someone, then that is from the fajr, the wicked evildoer. The wicked evildoer. And that means that he can no longer harm them. And he can no longer annoy them. And he can no longer molest them. He can no longer bother them. And that's because his harm, his annoyance, his molesting of them, his bothering of them is of different things. From them, he says, ظُلْمُهُ لَهُمْ, him wronging them. And from that is him doing evil actions himself. Sins. And that's because you may ask the question, if he's committing sins, how is it bothering them? What's the big deal? What's the problem? He says when he makes these munkarat, these evil actions, it's one or two things that's going to take place. He says, فَإِنْ أَنْكَرُوهَا, if they say ittaqillah, stop, they make inkar, stop doing this evil action, خَاصُوا مَشَقَّةً مِنْ ذَلِكَ. Then they realize a hardship in that. They have to have the courage. They have to stand up to him. They have to say it in his face. They have to grab his hands. They have to prevent him. That's a difficulty. And perhaps he would do harm to them even more once they do that. You tell someone to fear Allah and they say, shut up, get out my face. Or you're a fake Muslim, you're just doing the same thing, you can't judge me. Or they may do some physical harm to you. Alright? When sakatu anhu athimu. And the second scenario is, if they don't say anything about his evil deeds, they keep silent, then that means they get a sin. They get a sin for not enjoining the good and not forbidding the evil. May Allah help us all. As far as the animals being at rest or being relieved, then it's the same. كَذَلِكَ, he says. And that's because there's a big possibility that the wrongdoer would harm animals, harm them, and hit them, and make them carry things that they don't have the ability to carry, and starve them, to be harsh to animals and mean to animals. He says, and other things as well. As far as the land and the trees being at rest or relieved from the wicked evildoer, and that's because what some scholars say, tumna'ul qatar, is that there's no rain. The rain doesn't fall on the land and on the trees because of the sins of the people. When someone makes a sin, they don't get any rain. As some of the Salaf would say in the different narrations, they would curse the sons of Adam who make sins, and it says, إِنَّمَا مُنِعْنَا الْقَطْرَ مِنْ أَجْلِكُمْ. We don't get rain because of your sins. Nawawi rahimahullah ta'ala, he then says, and others they say, is that because a person, he says, يَغْصِبُهَا وَيَمْنَعُهَا حَقَّهَا مِنَ الشُّرْبِ وَغَيْرِهِ. Steal, pillage, plunder, and prevent the trees and the herbage and the weeds and the flowers from getting this necessary amount of water. So this goes to show us that when a person is a wrongdoer, they're just a wrongdoer, and they hurt and harm everybody. And no one is free from the evil of the sinner. Just like everyone benefits from the good of the pious mu'min. Everybody. Everyone gets something from the good Muslim. The non-Muslim neighbor, the non-Muslim police officer, the non-Muslim security guard, the non-Muslim toll booth officer, the animals in the street, everybody is going to be affected in a positive way by a pious believer. How you doing? They hold the door, they give them a tip. It's no end to the good of the believer. All right? Khairan, inshallah. So this is a ruling, or not, this is information about the janazah and about the spectacles and the phenomena of the hereafter and life in the grave and a person being dealt with and a person being rewarded and a person being punished based off of their deeds, of course. From the fawaid of this hadith, let's move forward to the next chapter. It says, باب في التكبير على الجنازة أو على الجنازة. حديث أبي هريرة رضي الله تعالى عنه أن رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم نعى النجاشية في اليوم الذي مات فيه، خرج إلى المصلى فصف بهم وكبر 4. حديث أبي هريرة رضي الله عنه قال نعى لنا رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم النجاشي صاحب الحبشة اليوم الذي مات فيه فقال استغفروا لأخيكم. حديث جابر رضي الله عنه أن النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم صلى على أصحمة النجاشي فكبر 4. حديث جابر بن عبد الله رضي الله عنهما قال النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم قد توفي اليوم رجل صالح من الحبش فهلم فصلوا عليه أو فصلوا عليه. قال فصففنا فصلى النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم عليه ونحن صفوف. The next chapter says, making the takbir upon the janazah. Making the takbir upon the janazah, i.e. مشروعية التكبير على الجنازة. The legality of doing this. That is from the sunnah and it's from the deen to make the takbir upon the janazah. So there is no janazah without takbir. It's the sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ, and that is what should be done. How many times? When do you raise your hands? Are the palms facing the qibla? Etc. That's explained in other places. That is explained in other places. Khairan, inshaAllah ta'ala. So that's what's meant by that chapter heading. And it shows us one of the rulings of the janazah. One of the ahkam of the janazah is to make the takbir, regardless of the specific details. Khairan, inshaAllah. So we have Hadith 555, Hadith 556, Hadith 557, and we have Hadith 558, which all show us and tell us and teach us that the Messenger of Allah alayhi salatu wasalam offered the funeral prayer upon An-Najashi, as they say, Negus, Negus. And many scholars, they say that Najashi, Negus, was not his actual name, but An-Najashi was the name or the title or the honorific title given to the leader of the Ethiopians. Just as Fir'aun, Pharaoh, was the title for the leaders of the Egyptians. Some scholars, they say this, Qaisar, Kisra, Caesar, etc. Some say that it wasn't his name, but that it was actually a title. Al-Muhim doesn't change or fix any rulings. That's who he was. So they teach us that the Prophet ﷺ, he made the janazah upon this man named An-Najashi, or called An-Najashi, and that he made takbir, kabbara. That's the mahallu shahid min al-hadith, and that's the alaqa or the munasabah of the hadith lil-bab, and the munasabah of the bab lil-kitab. فيه إثبات حكم من أحكام الجنازة وهو التكبير على الميت. واضح؟ طيب. So that's the main lesson from those ahadith. Nawawi rahimahullah ta'ala, he says here, فيه إثبات الصلاة على الميت وأجمعوا على أنها فرض كفاية والصحيح أن أصحابنا أن فردها يسقط بصلاة رجل واحد وقيل يشترط اثنان وقيل ثلاثة وقيل أربعة. Nawawi rahimahullah ta'ala says, this hadith shows that prayer is to be made over the deceased. And the scholars of Islam unanimously agree, ajma'u, they agree, is that Salat al-Janazah is fardu kifaya. Everyone doesn't have to do it, but someone does. And if no one makes the janazah, everyone is sinful. He says here, the correct view in the Shafi'i school of thought is that the prayer is fulfilled by one person. The obligation of this prayer is fulfilled by one person. If one person does it, khalas, that's enough. And it doesn't have to be 50 people, 40 people, or 12 people, or 30 people, one person. And another view, another variation of the madhab of Shafi'i is two. Some say three, and some say four. وفيه أن تكبيرات الجنازة أربع وهو مذهبنا ومذهب الجمهور. This hadith also proves is that the takbirs on the janazah are four, not five or three. And that is also the Shafi'i school of thought. And that's the madhab of most of the fuqaha. Most of the jurists of Islam, they hold that view, that it should be four, and not all of them. Not what? Not all of them. وفيه دليل الشافعي وموافقيه في الصلاة على الميت الغائب. And this hadith also proves the madhab of Imam Shafi'i and others is that it's permissible and it's recommended and is legislated for a person to make the prayer for a missing dead Muslim. A Muslim who's missing, he's deceased, and he don't have the physical body, it's permissible to make the prayer over this person. Salatul Ghaib. Now, with regards to the United States, then that applies to a brother who's shot in the streets. He was a revert Muslim. He changed his name to Abdul Rahim or Talib, whatever his name is. And after he's shot and killed, unfortunately, the Muslims from his local masjid go to his mother or father and kindly, humbly ask for the body, for them to wash it, shroud it, and to make the janazah on brother Talib. But the mother was crying and emotional, and she's already vindictive and malicious against Islam. She was mad that he became a Muslim when he came home from jail. She says, no, you can't have the body. Talib, that's what you call him, Talib, right? Wa alaikum salam. You called him Talib, but his name was Chris. I named him what? Chris. And Chris was what? He was baptized, not just Christian. He was dunked into the water when he was born. So therefore, Chris was really a Christian all the time. He was just going through something. Huh? He only became a Muslim in jail because, the fad. Everyone else does it. But he was really finding his way back home and navigating back to the good old pastor and the good old, ghetto tabernacle. Right? Baptist, evangelist, So therefore, you guys can kick rocks. Don't let the door hit you. This has happened before. Wallahi, it's a true story. It's happened many times. So therefore, what do we do now? Do we abandon Brother Talib? Do we leave him to that horrible, awful fate that his mother wants him to have? Or do we do what we can? فَاتَّقُوا اللَّهَ مَا اسْتَطَعْتُمْ إِذَا أَمَرْتُكُمْ بِشَيْءٍ فَأْتُوا مِنْهُ مَا اسْتَطَعْتُمْ. Whenever I command you to do something, do as much as you can, the Prophet says. And we make the salat al-ghaib upon Brother Talib. We don't have his body, and we make the janazah upon him as if we had his actual body. Everyone understand this? So it is a very practical ruling here. And the same applies to a Muslim who was burnt in a fire and his remains are destroyed. Or someone who is blown up in an airplane crash. Or someone who is consumed by a wild animal. Or drowned and swallowed by a whale or a shark. Everyone understand this? So it's a very practical ruling here. Salatul Ghaib. And of course, the other details of the ulama of Islam with regards to the details of Salatul Ghaib. Moving forward. وفيه معجزة ظاهرة لرسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم لإعلامه بموت النجاشي وهو في الحبشة في اليوم الذي مات فيه. And this hadith also affirms a mu'jiza, a divine sign, or divinely sent sign, as people say, a miracle. And that's because the Prophet ﷺ told the companions that Najashi died and he was in Abyssinia and the Prophet and companions were in Arabia. How could he get the news that fast? Everyone understand this? Moving forward. وفيه استحباب الإعلام بالميت لا على صورة نعل الجاهلية بل مجرد إعلام الصلاة عليه وتشييعه وقضاء حقه في ذلك. This hadith also goes to show us is that it is recommended to announce the death of the deceased. It's recommended to announce the death of the deceased. Not like the na'i, the pagan Jahili na'i, in which they talk about the virtues and the splendor, the eulogy. We explained this before. He says, but just telling the people that such and such has what? Died. That such and such has died. And that is for the people to pray upon this person. And people to carry him, to take care of his debts or whatever, collect his debts, whatever the case is. وَالَّذِي جَاءَ مِنَ النَّهِي عَنِ النَّعِي لَيْسَ الْمُرَادُ بِهِ هَذَا وَإِنَّمَا الْمُرَادُ نَعْيُ الْجَاهِلِيَّةِ الْمُشْتَمِلُ عَلَى ذِكْرِ الْمَفَاخِرِ وَغَيْرِهَا. And the prohibition of announcing the dead, announcing the death of the dead, the deceased Muslims, is only talking about the na'i of Jahiliyyah, in which they talk about the mafakhir, how strong he was, how righteous he was, how pious he was, blah, 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 the eulogy. He was funny, things like this, the people, they say at people's eulogies. And other problems, wailing, scratching the face, ripping the clothes, etc. Now in this issue here, brothers and sisters, it shows us once more the whole entire concept of fiqh sunnah. And not just taking one hadith and misusing it, improperly understanding it, and then running with it and abusing others with it, and forcing the view upon others. A message is sent out, brother Fulan has died. Say, you can't do this. The Prophet says this. It's a fiqh. You have to have harmony of the hadiths together. All right? Moving forward. He says, وقد يحتاج أبو حنيفة في أن الصلاة أو في أن صلاة الجنازة لا تفعل في المسجد بقوله خرج إلى المصلى ومذهبنا ومذهب الجمهور جوازها فيه. ويحتج بحديث سهل بن بيضاء ويتأول هذا على أن الخروج إلى المصلى أبلغ وإظهار أمره المشتمل على هذه المعجزة. وفي أيضا طيب, he says here, Abu Hanifa rahimahullah could possibly use this hadith to show his view, his madhab, that the janazah prayer is not to be made in the masjid. That's the view of Abu Hanifa, is that the janazah is not to be made what? In the masjid. So let's ask ourselves a question. Not bashing anybody. But here in South Ozone Park or South Richmond Hill, one can say the majority, but for sure a great number of Muslims here are what? Or supposedly what? Hanafis. Right or wrong? How many janazah have they prayed inside the masjid that you've seen? What's wrong here, right? So either they're following something that's not Abu Hanifa's view, such as his disciples' view, or they're just disregarding the whole thing altogether. Everyone understand the problem here? So he says that Abu Hanifa rahimahullah has the view that the janazah prayer is not to be made in the masjid, period. Everyone understand this? And he says, and this hadith could possibly what? Show it, because the Prophet said what? Halum, go out. Meaning outside of the masjid. Everyone clear on this? Nawawi rahimahullah ta'ala, he counters by saying, our madhab, our view, meaning the Shafi'i school of thought. Wa madhab al-jumhur, and most of the ulama, is that it's permissible to do so. It's not haram or makruh to make the janazah prayer what? In the masjid. And the dalil for that is the hadith of Sahl ibn Bayda, which is not mentioned here. He says, and what's meant by this hadith is that the Prophet ﷺ wanted the people to go out to manifest it even more and to show it even more. To tell the people how miraculous this was, that he had news from Abyssinia that he had died. وفيه أيضا إكثار المصلين وليس فيه دلالة أصلا لأن الممتنع عندهم إدخال الميت المسجد لا مجرد الصلاة. He says in this hadith also shows us to bring more people, or to bring more people to make the janazah, as much space as you possibly can for more people. And there's no proof stating that they can't pray in the masjid, period. And that's because the problem that they have is bringing a dead person inside of the masjid. That's their problem. He says they have a problem with the dead person being inside the what? Inside the masjid. Not just the sheer prayer, but they have a mushkila with the dead body being in the what? The masjid. Moving forward. طيب. He goes on to speak here. He goes on to speak about the different names of a Najashi, Tayyib, Ashama, and the concept of Najashi being a name or title, as we said before. The Egyptians, the Persians, the Turks, the Romans, the Yemenis, the different titles that they have for their leaders. Khan, right? The great Khan, Genghis Khan, which actually wasn't his what? His first name or his last name. Genghis Khan was World Khan. First name being Temujin, right? Tight, moving forward. He says, قوله صلى الله عليه وسلم فقوموا فصلوا عليه فيه وجوب الصلاة على الميت وهي فرض كفاية بالإجماع كما سبق. قوله في حديث النجاشي وكبر 4 تكبيرات، وكذا في حديث ابن عباس كبر 4، وفي حديث زيد بن أرقم بعد هذا 5. قال القاضي اختلف الآثار في ذلك، فجاء من رواية ابن أبي خيثمة أن النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم كان يكبر 4 و5 و6 و7 و8 حتى مات النجاشي فكبر عليه 4 وثبت على ذلك حتى توفي صلى الله عليه وسلم. قال واختلف الصحابة في ذلك من 3 تكبيرات إلى 9، وروي عن علي رضي الله عنه أنه كان يكبر على أهل بدر 6 وعلى سائر الصحابة 5 وعلى غيرهم 4. قال ابن عبد البر وانعقد الإجماع بعد ذلك على 4، وأجمع الفقهاء وأهل الفتوى بالأمصار على ما جاء في الأحاديث الصحاح، وما سوى ذلك أنهم شذوذ لا يلتفت إليه. قال ولا نعلم أحدا من فقهاء الأمصار يخمس إلا ابن أبي ليلى ولم يذكر في رواية مسلم من السلام وقد ذكره الدارقطني في سننه وأجمع العلماء عليه ثم قال جمهورهم يسلم تسليمة واحدة وقال الثوري وأبو حنيفة والشافعي وجماعة من السلف تسليمتين واختلفوا هل يجهر الإمام بالتسليم أم يسر وأبو حنيفة والشافعي يقولان يجهر وعن مالك روايتان واختلفوا في رفع الأيدي في هذه التكبيرات ومذهب الشافعي الرفع في جميعها وحكاه ابن المنذر عن ابن عمر وعمر بن عبد العزيز وعطاء وسالم بن عبد الله وقيس بن أبي حازم والزهري والأوزاعي وأحمد وإسحاق واختاره ابن المنذر وقال الثوري وأبو حنيفة وأصحاب الرأي لا يرفع إلا في التكبيرة الأولى ولمالك ثلاث روايات الرفع في الجميع وفي الأولى فقط وعدمه في كلها. He then says here, when the Prophet ﷺ said, stand up and pray upon him, it proves the previous point of the Salat al-Janazah being fard. Moving forward, he then made 4 takbirat on Najashi. Nawawi speaks about this narration of Ibn Abbas and others that mention 4. And one narration mentions 5 takbirs. He says, Qadi Iyad says, there are different narrations which mandate the number of takbirat. Some say 4, some say 5, some say 6, some say 7, and some say 8. 8 takbirs. Najashi only had 4. And this was what the Prophet ﷺ did until the end of his life. He stuck to 4. The Prophet remained upon 4 towards the end of his life. He then says, and the Sahaba as well, they differed. Not only do we have different hadiths, but the Sahaba differed with regards to 3 takbirs all the way up to 9. 3 to 9. This is narrated from Ali radiallahu anhu that he would make 6 takbirs on the people of Badr and 4 or 5 on the rest of the Sahaba and 4 on the normal people. So we have different narrations here with regards to how many takbirs you're allowed to make. Ibn Abdul Barr rahimahullah ta'ala, he says, and this is a very interesting quote here, he says that this is consensus in Aqd al-Ijma'. There's consensus here that it's only 4. And the ulama and the fuqaha and the people of fatwa and all of the towns and cities and countries, they say it's 4 based off of the authentic narrations. And anything besides 4, he says, shudhudun la yultafatu ilayhi. He says it's weird, strange, and peculiar. And it's not even considered. It's not even considered. He says, and we don't know of any faqih who said that there are 5 takbirs except for Ibn Abi Layla. Stop or comma. How can this be said when we have hadiths to prove it and athar to prove it? Kayf, how can it be shudud? La yultafatu ilay. And how can they come upon ijma' that is only 4 and you have these different narrations? Are all of the hadiths that talk about 5 and 6 and 8, are they authentic or not? Are all of the athar that mention the companions did different numbers authentic or not? One can pose that question. And one can also say, well, what's the chances of all of them being da'if? And how many other issues in which the Prophet did a certain number and then people say it's permissible to do another number because of this sahabi and that sahabi and this sahabi. So that's ishkal. That's a problem here. Wallahu alam. If that's ijma', then it's ijma'. No doubt about that. But we know the danger of ijma' being claimed. Wallahu ta'ala alam. Moving forward. The next issue here is the taslima. When you leave Salat al-Janazah, what do you do? Assalamu alaikum. Assalamu alaikum rahmatullah. Assalamu alaikum rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Or do you do it on the other side as well? Or do you just do one taslima? طيب. He says here, most of the ulama hold the view that it's only one. Sufyan al-Thawri, Abu Hanifa, Imam Shafi'i, and some of the Salaf, they say 2. So it's khilaf on how many taslims are made on the janazah. If it's an authentic narration to prove that it's done on the second side, then you should diversify, like the takbirs of Salat al-Eid, like we did. And don't just always stick to one style or one mode. Khairan, inshallah. Tomorrow we'll mention the rest of these fawaid and these ahkam. And Allah Azza wa Jalla surely knows best.